Hey guys, what's up? Chris07 here, Emergency 4 Tutorials, and I would first like to apologize for the fact that I have not posted a video in quite a while. So sorry about that. Offline life kind of threw me some curveballs, had to take care of a couple of things, but now I am trying very hard to get back in the swing of things, and I am kicking it all back off with this other 3-part series on how to create an enterable building. So what I have here is the LA Mod apartment building. As you can see, this was imported directly from LA Mod and modeled by their team. Awesome job, by the way. And what we're going to do is actually turn this from a non-enterable building as it is right now, being as when you throw it in game you can't actually enter inside of it, and I actually want to make it enterable. I want to make it so that you can actually have personnel that go inside and have furniture and whatever else inside. So what we're going to do is we're going to create 3 sections of this tutorial. The first section of this video, we're actually going to cut this model up and do all that. The second part, what we're going to do is we're actually going to do a very, very quick sort of modeling of an interior, just going to throw some walls inside. And the final part is we're actually going to UV map all of this. So we're going to have this UV map, and then we're actually going to also throw in some textures for the stuff that we created in the second section. So little disclaimer, this tutorial does require that you have ZModeler. You have to have ZModeler in order to export the final model file. If you do not have a paid version of ZModeler, you cannot do this. The free trial versions of ZModeler will not do this because they cannot export to the necessary format, and I don't even know if they can import the Emergency 4 format. So you will need a paid version. I am using ZModeler 3, and ZModeler 3 is great. I absolutely love it. The interface is a lot cleaner, a lot nicer, and there are a couple cool new features that were not available in ZModeler 2. However, ZModeler 3 being the latest and the greatest and so nicely organized, it is the more expensive route. It is a subscription-based piece of software, so you do have to buy continual access to this program on a either monthly or yearly or semi-annually kind of basis. So there is a regular recurring cost with it. If you're on more of a budget, the best option is ZModeler 2, which I believe is still available for purchase, and that is about $20 US. So that is still an option. All the tools and things that we're going to use in these tutorials are also available in ZModeler 2. However, the user interface is different, so you're going to have to kind of adapt. And I'm not super familiar with ZModeler 2, just from my limited work with it, but the interface is totally different. You're just going to have to kind of search around for the different things that I'm doing, because I do know all the tools available in ZModeler 3 that I'm going to use in this series is available in ZModeler 2. You just kind of have to search around for it. So that is the necessary disclaimer for you guys. So we're actually going to begin. I'm going to show you what we're going to be creating, and the first thing here is the unaltered apartment, and what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to hide the roof. So as you can see, the roof is actually hideable just like that. So when your personnel enters, boom, the roof is hidden and you have the interior visible. And I have here this crudely modeled interior, and we're going to recreate this. And as you can see, I have not actually gotten around to the third section of this tutorial yet, so it is not yet UV mapped, so we will actually be doing that together. So I also have some doors. These are the front 2 doors, which will open in game. And yeah, so what, I actually think this is going to be a 4th part, because we're going to need to throw this in game also. So yep, this is actually going to be a 4-part series. So excuse me on that one. So yep, this is what we're going to create. So let's get to it. I'm going to hit new scene, and I'm going to hit this little down arrow, and that's going to bring me to my 3 viewports. So these are the 3 viewports, and if I actually go ahead and import that model that I want to convert, I'm going to go import, and this is from LA Mod, and I'm going to go and import small apartments 1, and I can do that. And here that is, and I have my viewport set up. So I have 4 different windows showing 4 different angles. The perspective allows me to kind of move the camera around in any direction. I can zoom in with the middle mouse wheel, and I can also rotate the camera with the holding the Alt key and the left mouse key. So that's how I'm moving around the camera. And if I want to, I can actually hold down the middle mouse button if you have it, and that will allow you to kind of move in a left, right, up, down fashion without all the rotation. The Alt is all the rotation nonsense. Okay, so that's moving the camera. And again, you can actually resize these viewports. If you go in the middle here, you see this little 4-way arrow, and you can resize your viewports that way. You can go between 2 of the viewports and kind of go left and right, or you can go up and down. That works too. Just kind of getting all this stuff out of the way, since this is the first ZModeler tutorial I've kind of put together, so giving you a little info here. If you hit this little square box, this will actually maximize the viewport, so you have it full screen. And if I hit the down arrow, that will actually bring you back to your 4 viewports. And the other thing I need to do before we get started is we need to actually set up our viewports. So I'm going to hit this little doodad here, and I need to make sure it's in wireframe, so that's selected. I need to make sure it's solid. I do not need this, I do not need that, I do not need that, and I do not need that. So I'm going to uncheck those. I'm going to hit textures, and I'm going to hit light. I don't know why, but you don't need it. All light does is add shadows and stuff, but I'm just going to do it for the heck of it. So there's that. So that's the top view. If I wanted to actually make this a different view, say I wanted to make this a back view, I can just hit back and that will change that view. Otherwise, we can just keep that as a top view, just like that, and using my middle mouse button to scroll in and out. Okay, so set up the right viewport. Wireframe is already selected. I'm going to need solid, I need textures, and I need light. And the front, I have wireframe, I need solid. And the reason I'm selecting solid, I can totally do this without solid. I personally just like to see what I'm doing. I like to actually kind of model while everything is live. I personally find that doing modeling with wireframe only on models with a lot of polygons really kind of makes things a lot more difficult than it needs to be. But that's just personal preference, so I'm just going to do all that. So it looks like we are set up. This is showing the right side of the model, this is showing the top, this is perspective, so that means it's kind of a free floating camera, and then there's front. So notice if I try and move the camera in any of these front or the right views or whatever, I cannot do the Alt left click thing. It will not allow me to. That's the whole point. It maintains a right-sided or a front-sided perspective at all times, but I can do the middle mouse button and move around that way, and I can zoom in and out. So FYI on that. Alright, so enough of that stuff. Let's actually get to work here. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to maximize this front view, hitting that, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit. So what we want to do is we actually want to cut the roof off of this building, and I think the easiest place to do that is along this line right here. Thankfully, this model has a nice perfect little line for us that will make conversion from a non-enterable to an enterable building very, very easy. This is actually a very easy model to convert. So we will follow the natural line. Now if there wasn't a natural line, I would have to make my own natural lines, and that just is added steps and things. So thankfully this will be very easy, so let's get to it. So the first thing I need to do is actually go into polygon mode. So I'm going to go up here and I'm going to select polygon. In ZModeler 2, I do think that the different modes are just icons, so, and they're usually up on the top bar. I think like top right sort of area, and you are going to need to select the polygon mode and then select the model by clicking on it just like that. So there we go, we are in polygon mode. as you can see, all these different polygons. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to Select, and I'm going to do the quad shape selection tool. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start somewhere off in the corner up here above and to the left of the model. Heck, I can start from the other side too, but just make sure that I select everything. I'm going to hold down the left mouse button, and I'm going to drag all the way across the model and towards that line that I want to be the separator. Now I don't want to go on top of it, because if it's just, you know, a micrometer just a little bit over the line, it's going to select the polygons below that cutoff point. So a little bit above is just fine. Just like that, we got a little bit of space above the cutoff line, and that will actually select all the polygons we want. So I'm going to minimize this viewport, and I'm actually going to maximize our perspective, and I'm going to rotate the camera around, again holding Alt and the left mouse button, and make sure everything that we want is selected. Now when you use the quad tool like that, you're actually selecting everything behind that particular set of polygons. So I had a front view of this, and it's not just selecting just what's visible, it's actually selecting everything behind it as well. So be careful when you use the quad tool, because of that behavior as well. So again, if I actually wanted to deselect, I would just hold the control key and drag across, and that would actually deselect parts, but I don't want to do that, so I'm just going to reselect those. Oh, now I've messed it up, so let me go back down, go to my front view, and let me reselect everything, just like that. Alright, so quick look through the perspective view. Everything that we want is selected, nothing that we don't want is not selected. Let me see the underneath here, is that all selected? Ooh, not quite. So actually we're going to do some manual selection at this point. So let us, we're going to want to do this. Let's see. Yeah, why not? So what we're going to do is we're actually going to go across, and we're actually going to select each and every one of these individual polygons. So I'm going to go to the Select menu here, and I'm going to go to Single, and I'm going to hover over near the dot of that polygon until it highlights blue, and then I'm going to right mouse, and then right mouse, and then right mouse, and then right mouse. I will leave these because that is the inlet to the window. Right mouse, and then just kind of do that all the way along here. Moving the camera, I'm using my middle mouse button to move my camera, and my middle mouse wheel to scroll back, just like that. And there is something called clipping, so if I zoom in too close, you'll see that we start to look through the polygon. That is called clipping, and that happens when you do get too close to a polygon. So that clipping actually makes, I don't want that. So see, I accidentally selected that one. I didn't want to select that. So to deselect it, I just right mouse again. So that will deselect it. And then I want this one and this one. Alright, let's take a look at the edges. Nope, those are good. That looks pretty good on this side. There's nothing on the sides. Now we're going to do the back side. So same deal. Just right click all of these. I don't know what one rule of thumb, this is something that I've kind of learned through experience, kind of a little pro tip here. If you go to make a selection and you don't actually select anything, like I'm right here and then I right click, notice nothing was highlighted when I clicked. I don't know what was selected. Something, I guarantee you, is either selected or deselected. And in complicated models, it's very hard to tell what's been changed. So if you make a click or a selection and the thing wasn't highlighted that you want to select, and you made the click, like right here, you're gonna want to undo it. So you're just gonna hit the undo button, and then I actually like to go all the way back until my last known one was selected, and now it's deselected. So let me reselect that and reselect that. Because remember, when you make a selection, something's always going to get selected, unless you're off in someplace. So when I did that and the polygon I was aiming for didn't get selected because it wasn't highlighted, some other polygon on some other part of the model got selected or deselected. And that's not what we want, because when we do this later, we're going to discover, oh wait, there's a giant hole here, or wait, this polygon's not supposed to be here. So best tip is when that happens, just undo until the last known one was selected, and when that becomes deselected from the undo process, just reselect it and start again. And that will really cut down on the number of surprises you get later. And doing this stuff in general is just very frustrating. It is time consuming. So just be aware, this is not a fast skill. This is something that takes some time, some practice, and some more time because it's tedious. Okay, so I think we're good there. So what we're actually going to do now is we are actually going to separate this upper part of the building from the lower part. So how do we do that? Well, right now, what you're seeing here, I'm going to go into object mode. This is an object. The entire model is known as an object, okay? And an object is made up of polygons. And if I select that, now these polygons are made up of edges. You see these edges here, these black lines going through, these are edges. And edges are made up of vertices, and vertices are the red dots. So a vertice is a single point in 3D space. An edge is the line between 2 points in 3D space, 2 connected points in 3D space. So if I place one point somewhere and then I place another point somewhere, the line in between those 2 points is considered an edge. And then multiple edges connect to form a polygon. And then multiple polygons connect to form an object or a model. Okay? So what we need to do is we actually need to take these polygons and we need to separate them from this object. So there is a tool for that, and we're going to go to the Modify tab, and we're going to look for the Detach Polygons from Object. We're going to left click that bad boy, and all we have to do is just highlight any polygon, doesn't matter which one. Any polygon that is highlighted, doesn't matter which one, and then we're going to left click. And now that will have created a separate object with just those polygons that we selected. So essentially this object has been split in 2 different objects. So if I look at the bottom one, that should be the roof. See? So now that is gone, just like that. And then the top part. Okay, so now you have the 2 different parts there. So I'm actually going to rename this. I'm going to name this small apt. Let's call this wall 01. Nah, just call it small apartment. No, this is roof. Small apartment roof. Is that the roof? That is the roof. Okay, and then I'm going to call this small apartment, just like that. I'm going to drag this right on top so I can keep track of it. The order in which it is on here does not really matter. So if I uncheck it, it makes that object disappear. So now here is the inside of the building. It's a whole lot of nothing, right? Well, I mean, no one's going to create an interior for a model if you can never see it. So now that this is enterable, we're going to need to create an interior, and that's something we'll do in another video. So now what we need to do is we need to create doors. Now before we do that, I just want to kind of give you the basic layout of an enterable building. So an enterable building is made up of 5 different parts, kind of like a vehicle is made up of doors and wheels and children. This enterable buildings is actually made up of doors. It's made up of a wall, which is actually going to be the base of this model. So what you see right now is actually the wall. That is the part of the building that never disappears. So when you enter it, it always stays there. There's the floor. This model actually does not have a floor, but if you wanted to create a floor in here, that also would never disappear. So it would be attached to the walls and it would be visible 100% of the time. And then there is windows, which disappear upon people entering the building. And then there's the roof, which also disappears when people enter the building. So I'm not necessarily going to create windows here. All it is it's the same general concept as doors, but I don't see a point in doing windows, at least in this particular model. So we're going to cut out doors. We're going to create more polygons to make an interior wall, which we will actually attach to our small APT or small apartment object here. And the floor we're not going to do. We're just going to keep it plain. And there's our roof. So the roof disappears when someone enters the building so that you can see inside. So that's pretty much the breakdown of how that works, and we'll go more into that in the final video when we actually throw this in game. So right now what we need to do is we need to cut out the doors. So we have 2 doors here and we have 2 doors back here. Me personally, I'm just going to do these 2 doors up front. To do the back 2 doors here, if you want to do those also, same process. So it's no reason to sweat over that. It's just very easy. So I'm going to kind of move in front here. This I can actually do all in perspective mode. I actually really like to use perspective mode when possible, just because it just allows me to easily manipulate the camera in any direction. So that is that. So I'm going to go into polygon mode. I'm going to select my object, and as you can see here, again, this model is very easy to convert, because you can see here I have these 2 polygons which I can make into 1 door, and then I have these 2 polygons which I can make into another door. Even the texture lined up perfectly. This is just too easy. So I'm going to go into select, make sure I'm in single mode, which I am, and I'm going to select with a right click to both of these polygons, and that is 1 door. So now I'm going to go to modify and make sure my detach is selected. As you can see, it still is. So it says here left button detach. So whenever I left click on something, it's going to detach. And as you see here, it says right button, and whenever I right click, it's going to do a single selection. So all I have to do now is select one of these polygons and do a left click, and that will separate out. So that was this. So that's a door. So it's going to be a small part. I'm going to rename that underscore door 01. And now I need to go back to polygon mode, because whenever you detach, it actually automatically goes back to object mode. So I need to go to polygon mode, select whatever, and now I'm going to deselect that by hitting Shift and D at the same time. Or alternatively, I could just go to select none and then just make a selection on any polygon. And let's see, there you go, just do that. I accidentally hit the left click and that was a detach, and this thing is, you can't detach the entire object from itself. So that's why it threw that little error. So there's that. So that is an object. I'm going to go ahead and hide that now. I don't need that. And now I need to go into single selection, and I need to right click these 2 and select those 2 polygons, left click them, and now that is the second door, door 02. And now that is done. I'm going to rearrange these for easier housekeeping. And that is that. So if I want to do these doors, I could as well. So that is pretty much the slice and dice operation. Very easy. This is actually the perfect building to do this job with, because it's just, the lines are already there for you. It's like it was modeled with the intent to be enterable. But again, if it's a more complex model, for example, let me see, what's an insane model that would suck? Ooh, I know. How about the, oh, where is it? The police station. Let me hide this stuff. This building would be very difficult to convert to enterable. The reason being, first off, it's a lot of polygons. So say I wanted to make an enterable lobby, I would have to figure out a way how to slice this so that when I enter, the lobby doesn't look all stupid. This is just a very difficult sort of building to make enterable. It's totally doable, but it just requires a lot more work than the one we're using in our particular tutorial. So just keep that in mind. Not all buildings are as easy as this one, but I decided to keep it easy for you guys so you can follow along in this tutorial. So That's it for this episode. I appreciate you guys sticking around and understanding, the offline stuff that happened. And again, I apologize for not posting more videos more frequently, but I'm trying to get back into this, and this series should be good for a little bit. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave them comment below, and be sure to like, subscribe, and if you've already done so, thank you very much for the support, and I will catch you guys later.